Now, the United States should be held responsible for the stalemate in negotiations to revive the Iran nuclear deal and the unilateral sanctions imposed on the country. Well, that's coming from Iran's foreign ministry. Nasser Kanani, a spokesman for Iran's foreign ministry, made the remarks at a press conference, noting that the U.S. government disrupted the regional peace and stability and created differences by making false accusations in order to achieve its illegal goals. Iran signed the nuclear deal, formerly known as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, with world powers in July 2015, agreeing to put some curbs on its nuclear program in return for the removal of the sanctions on the country. The U.S., however, pulled out of the deal in May 2018 and reimposed its unilateral sanctions on Iran, prompting the latter to drop some of its nuclear commitment under the deal. The spokesman noted that the unilateral sanctions imposed on Iran by the U.S. have affected the country's trade with the international community, as some countries, under the political pressures of the U.S., have refused to pay relevant financial payment or cut off the financial channels to Iran. He added that the country will continue to negotiate with relevant countries to safeguard its national interests. Now, a top envoy to Sudan's paramilitary rapid support forces says it was time for peace. Yusuf Azat made his remarks in Togo, where he was attending talks aimed at preventing Sudan's Darfur region from sliding deeper into war. Mr. Azat added his side would participate in any kind of meeting for peace and bringing people together and stop the war in Darfur and in Sudan. On the front line, fighting showed no sign of abating on Monday. However, a representative from a key Darfur rebel faction attending the Lomé talks welcomes the creation of roadmap. Darfur in western Sudan saw some of the worst bouts of violence in the conflict. In the early 2000s, the region witnessed another bloody war from which it never fully recovered. The representatives in Togo's capital discussed ways of reopening Darfur's El Janina airport under the RSF control to bring in humanitarian aid. The Togo talks came after rights campaigners in Darfur blamed the RSF and allied Arab militias for reported atrocities in their stronghold there, including rape, looting, and the mass killings of ethnic minorities. A deadly past struggle has pitted Sudan's army chief against his former deputy commander of the paramilitary RSF forces since the 15th of April. The fighting has turned Khartoum and other urban areas into battlefields. The sprawling region of Darfur saw the fighting turn into ethnic clashes. The conflict derailed Sudanese hopes of restoring the country's fragile transition to democracy, which had begun after a popular uprising forced the military's removal of long-term dictator Omar al-Bashir in April 2019. A coup led by the military and RSF disrupted the democratic transition in October 2021. Pro-democracy leaders, meanwhile, on Monday met in Egypt's capital, Cairo, the first such gathering of Sudanese politicians since the breakout of the war. Well, an expert on Sudanese geopolitics and advocate for democracy and human rights, Dr. Magdalene El-Haj El-Tahir, joins me now from Norway to discuss the Sudan situation. Thank you for joining us on The World Now. First, the war in Sudan is in its 101st day. Did you see it lasting this long?
Good afternoon. No, I have not seen it lasting this long. I and many national and international observers and people of the Sudan, we thought that this is going to end faster than that. The people who I think certainly thought it will last faster than that with a quick victory are the warring parties, the RSF and Sudanese armed forces. They both thought they're going to have a quick and fast victory. Turns out that it is not. And now we are getting into our fourth month, and the humanitarian situation is very, very, very dire, with a little, very, very, very little help from either foreign countries or foreign international NGOs.
Yes.
The people of the Sudan are living and getting help through each other. The Sudanese people in the diaspora, plus the Sudanese people and their networks inside the Sudan and in the neighboring countries. But as far as any humanitarian aid from any single country, we have received none in the last 4 months.
Dr. Tahir, apologies to, I need to really come in here. I know these aids are actually very much needed because residents are actually calling for support. But before we even get into that, on Monday, 2 meetings held simultaneously. One of political leaders in Cairo, Egypt, and another that involved the RSF envoy, where the envoy said categorically it was time for peace. How sincere do you think this conversation is? Because in the past, we have seen ceasefires not stand.
There is no incentive for, first of all, we welcome at the moment and the situation while it is, we welcome all kinds of initiatives and any party that be an international government or an international organization like the IGAD or countries like Egypt, Saudi Arabia. We welcome any initiative for stopping the war, ensuring safe corridors to humanitarian aid, and the safety of civilians. That we welcome. However, when it comes to how much trust I put into the words by the representative of the Janjaweed or the RSF, I do not trust any of what he is saying, because at the time when he is saying what he's saying in Cairo, is huge. The RSF is actively way into their second genocide of this in a matter of 20 years. In 2003, they committed a genocide, the very same group, and now in 2023, they are committing a full-scale genocide in Darfur.
So you're calling this a genocide?
No, it is a genocide, not just by my calling. Even the international community is calling it a genocide. British officials are calling it a genocide, and there has been recent discoveries of mass graves in Darfur, and it is the RSF who is responsible for their second genocide, and the world is watching.
Okay, I'm afraid that's the much we'll really be able to take. I hope we can continue the conversation some other time. Dr. Magdalene El-Haj El-Tahir, thank you for talking to us on The World Now.
Thank you. Thank you.